Ok, can you hear me? Perfect. Boa tarde, como ir bem? Desculpe por isso acontecer. I'm going to switch right away into English because I'm not Portuguese. Really, I'm not speaking Portuguese very well, so I'm going to switch to English now. So today we're going to be talking about Jakarta EE. Who is still using Java EE today? Quite a few. Have you heard about Jakarta EE? Well, pretty much everyone. Spring Boot users? Yeah. So you're going to probably learn some stuff for you as well, so you are definitely in the right room. All right, so today we're going to be talking about Jakarta. I'll give a quick retrospective about the past, over the last 20 years, so that we can understand where we come from and how we moved to Jakarta EE. And then I'll be talking about some issues we faced, especially the JavaX namespace that you probably heard over the last couple of weeks, or probably days even. And then I'm going to be also introducing microprofile because they are kind of tied together. We'll see how they relate to each other. And hopefully it should bring you with some inputs on how you can contribute to the platform now. Let's get started. So my name is João Monteiro. I live in France, South Paris. I'm the Director of Engineering at Tomitribe, which is on your lanyard. We do mainly middleware stuff, and we also have an API gateway, so we do also a lot of security in there. I'm here today because I've been contributing quite a lot at the JCP just before it moved to Jakarta EE in a few specifications like EJB or security specifications, and therefore I kind of moved from the Oracle JCP to Jakarta EE landscape. There is also Jean-François James. I've decided to have him as a co-speaker, even if it's not on stage, just because we kind of built this presentation together. So I think it's fair to have him on the screen as well. So he's a senior software architect. He has like pretty much 25 years experience in payment systems, and therefore he kind of saw all the Java EE from the beginning. So that's why we built that presentation together. All right, let's start with a quick retrospective. So from my view, there are kind of 6 big steps in Java EE. It started like about 20 years ago now with J2EE, with only a few specifications. At that time, the approach was let's start from a white page. Let's write down some stuff we want. Let's create the specification, and at some point we're going to write the implementation. That worked for quite a few specifications, like the servlet specification, which is still very used today. But after a few years, it became really messy, and with a lot of complexity and deployment descriptors everywhere. And therefore, we ended up in 2003 with a platform which was not very easy to use, not even easy to implement, just because the approach was not good. And therefore, in 2004, I believe, we've got some other frameworks like Hibernate and Spring, which decided to kind of leave a bit the Java EE space and create their own standard. So Hibernate has become like very, very well known. And it ended up by influencing the Java EE specifications. So with Java EE 5 in 2006, we kind of reversed the approach and started looking at the outside world, and we started basically creating specifications on top of the standards like Hibernate or Spring. So definitely Java EE 5 turned into something which was easy to use, definitely more testable. We had the EJBs finally usable. They were not before. I don't know if some of you really used EJBs before, but it was really a nightmare to use. And we've got JPA, which is basically the standard in front of Hibernate, which was one of the implementations. So this was like the sun times. Right after, we got a few years later the Java EE 6 as well, which had also some interesting stuff that came from the open source. So one of the founders of Hibernate, Gavin King, he created JBoss Sim, which basically became CDI, context and dependency injection, which is today the backbone of Java EE. Basically, every other specification relies on CDI for configuration and integration. And we've got some good additions like JAX-RS for REST services. Everyone is doing microservices over here. Just a few? Wow. And we've got also some good things like the web profile. So basically, Java EE has been growing quite a lot over the last few years. We'll get some numbers later, but we decided to basically add the profiles in there so that we can have just a subset of the whole specification of the whole platform, and therefore we can also have some lightweight runtimes as well. And then in 2013, we got Oracle to acquire Sun Microsystems, and quickly we got Java EE 7, so with a big push from Oracle, and I think at that time we had like quite a mature platform with a lot of features, including JBatch, WebSockets, and JSON processing. So at that time, I think the platform was good, lightweight, still lightweight, and very featureful. And then, well, total blackout for almost 4 years. No one really heard about Java EE. Oracle didn't do anything. So basically, the community reacted by creating few initiatives like Java EE Guardians from Reza Rahman. I don't know if you know him. And then other people from the industry started to put those together and started creating what they call microprofiles. So companies like IBM, Red Hat, Tomitribe, Payara, so they all sit around the table and decided to create microprofile. I'll get into microprofile a bit later in the presentation, but it's really important to see that microprofile basically came in 2016 when basically Oracle was not doing anything on Java EE platform. The result of that is that at Code 1 2016, Oracle decided to change the roadmap, and they announced like a new roadmap for Java EE 8 with only a few additions. So it took them 4 years to have just few additions, and they wanted to focus Java EE 9 on the cloud-native applications. I'll get back to that also a bit later, but at that time the cloud was very mature as well, and we were lacking a lot of features in Java EE, so Oracle decided to announce Java EE 9 with a lot of cloud features. So that was, 2017, and then, well, kind of a big bang happened. Oracle just decided to give away the whole platform into the open source, and now we are back into a new home, which is Eclipse Foundation. So today we still have Java EE 8. We don't have anything from Java EE 9. The roadmap is still being created in the Eclipse Foundation. The approach is definitely different because it's all open source and it's community driven. So you have to get consensus from everybody around the table. But what we can say is that today we have like already a Java EE 8 platform available on the Eclipse Foundation. So the transition from Oracle to Eclipse took nearly 1 year, the full 2018. So it took one year to do that, and the Glassfish, oops, oh, come on. And Glassfish 5.1 is basically the same as Glassfish 5, but using the new packages from Jakarta EE. Is that clear how the platform evolved? All right, so there are really big factors, 2016 with microprofile and Java EE Guardians, and then the cloud, which was also mature over here. We saw like the full progress of the platform and how it's going to be available in the Eclipse Foundation now. So as we can see, there is always like a balance to find between innovation and standardization. People want the platform to be moving very, very fast, but obviously it takes time to put everyone around the table and agreed on the specification. It worked really well between 2006 and 2013, where we've got Java EE 6, Java EE 7, and then it became again the very, very bad because we didn't have any innovation, we didn't have any new specification, we didn't have any new Java EE release. So it's really something difficult, but there are still some good benefits from that. Here are a few complaints that I'm used to get when I speak about specifications and standardizations. So usually I get like, well, standards are very slow. Well, again, obviously, because we have to take the best from everyone and get everyone to agree. They don't guarantee portability, that's correct, but that's better than being vendor lock-in if you use your vendor APIs. So the goal of the standards is not to, well, it's to make the transition easy, but it's the main advantage is not to be vendor lock-in. So from a user perspective and from the company perspective, it's a good benefit. Standards don't have feature X. Obviously, again, the standards are meant to be the common piece and not to have all the features in there. So we want to have like the canonical part in the specification, but not everything. They don't innovate. Again, I'm not sure I agree with that because from 2006 to 2013, we've got the profiles, we've got JAX-RS, we've got CDI, and a lot of new specification, new stuff. And well, it's a bunch of vendor experts, so that was probably the case before. Now that everything is moving to the open source, it's up to you to get involved and raise your voice and basically influence the community. Just added a small quote over here, just for the Spring Boot users, for instance, that shows that the movement from Oracle to Eclipse Foundation is now in a good shape because even Spring Boot decided to move all their packages to the new Jakarta EE packages. Well, back to the Big Bang. Back in 2018, again, Oracle decided to give away the whole platform. Well, let's think about that. It's basically 20 years of development that Oracle decided to give away for free. It's like a lot of code. We'll get some numbers right after, but it was really a good change in the industry. And basically, we needed a new home. So after a lot of discussions, finally, Oracle decided to give all of that into the Eclipse Foundation. Again, it's nearly 40 projects. It's more than 10 million line of code, and we needed really a big foundation and a big community to host all the incoming sources. So the new branding name is Jakarta EE, as you know. E4G is basically the top level project at Eclipse where all the sub-projects are living. So again, there is about 40 projects in there. We'll get some numbers a bit later as well. The interesting thing is that the microprofile that we are going to discover a bit later started in 2016. It's also hosted at the Eclipse Foundation. So it makes things easier in terms of sharing the knowledge, also sharing the community. And we'll see how microprofile comes into the landscape and what it brings to the Java EE world. So probably like most of you, I mainly knew the Eclipse IDE before. I am basically a long-time Apache contributor, so I know very, very well the Apache community, but to be honest, I didn't know anything about the Eclipse Foundation before, aside from the IDE, obviously. But after digging into the Eclipse Foundation, I discovered that it's actually quite a big community with more than 1.5K committers, more than 300 projects into a lot of different areas, Internet of Things, Java, IDE, etc. And it's, vendor neutral. It's basically sponsored by a lot of companies in the industry, including Oracle, obviously, and Red Hat, Microsoft, and other big vendors that you know. Some projects that you may know from the Eclipse Foundation. So Jetty, which is the servlet container. from the Eclipse Foundation. There is obviously the ID, microprofile, which we're going to be talking about. Do you know JNoSQL? Nope. So JNoSQL is kind of the JPA equivalent for NoSQL databases. So the goal of JNoSQL is to provide you with a standard API on top of the NoSQL databases, so all the column-based, document-based, etc. Vertex, which is a very well-known one, also that allows you to implement reactive applications. E4J, obviously, the deep learning one. Eclipse Link, which is an alternative to Hibernate. It's the reference implementation for JPA. And this one, which I wanted to mention because it's an interesting one. Do you know OpenJ9? Nope. So OpenJ9 is a new JVM. Oops. New JVM for that you can rely on to run your applications. OpenJ9 is totally open source and totally compliant with the OpenJDK specifications. It's a very interesting JVM because it's meant to be used in the cloud landscape, so the footprint is very low, the startup time is very optimized as well. So definitely if you run your applications on the cloud and you need some good performances, definitely try it because it's a very good JVM. The approach in terms of garbage collector, etc. is really different, but it's a very powerful JVM. So what makes now Jakarta EE different? So on the left side in blue you have the things, how the things used to work at Oracle when we are using the Java community process. And on the right side you have the Eclipse Foundation specification process. So basically we can see the difference over here. So everything which was specification first at Oracle became now code first. So we try to implement things before we specify them. So we don't end up by writing down things that are difficult to implement or to use. At Oracle, it used to be led by individuals or companies, and they had all the IPs on the specification. That's why probably most of the specifications were led by Oracle guys, just before they could get really the IPs on all the specification. At the Eclipse Foundation, it's all made by the community after talking into mailing lists and into meetings. So it's really a different approach. Everything which was used to be closed, like the TCK, you don't know either what is a TCK, I believe. No, TCK is a very obscure area if you are not part of Java EE. TCK means test compatibility kit. Again, it's very obscure. People didn't know about TCKs, but basically they were used to certify implementations such as IBM WebSphere, Red Hat, Wildfly, and so on and so forth. They were used to be very close. Again, very hard to get them, very hard to know if you are not passing the TCK, what's going wrong, etc. Very big nightmare for those who worked on certification process. Also, there is no more reference implementations. So at Oracle, we used to have an implementation which was known as reference implementation for every specification. At Eclipse, we decided to have compatible implementations, but there is no more reference implementation to pick up. And again, the certification process was owned by Oracle. You didn't know if you were certified or not. You didn't know how they run the test, etc. At the Eclipse, you basically run the test yourself, and you claim to be certified yourself. So what has been transferred? Obviously, the specifications, the big 300 pages from EJBs, for example, or even more for Java EE. So all the documents, all the APIs, and probably that's my thing. All the APIs have been transferred as well, and I'll remove this. And again, the reference implementations, such as Glassfish, they have also been moved to the Eclipse Foundation. The TCK test compatibility kit, I just spoke about that just before, and also all the manuals and documentation and samples have been transferred to the Eclipse Foundation. So let's get some numbers so that we realize how big was the work to move all that. So the Java EE source code is about 5 million lines of code. That's a lot of code over the last 20 years. About half are commons at the moment into 61K files. So it's a lot of code that have been moved to the Eclipse Foundation. The CTS, compatibility test suite, is basically all the TCK. As we can see, it's basically pretty much the same numbers of Java EE, which is good because it means that at least we have like a lot of tests to certify our implementations. There are less commons. There are tests, obviously, so we don't need probably this much commons and probably a bit less files. But as we can see, the numbers are very, very high. All right, if we sum that up, it gives us more than 13 million lines of code into almost 100K files. If you want to compare, for instance, the Linux kernel is 5 million lines of code. WorldCraft, which I saw on the background of the computer from Roberto, it's also about 500 million lines of code. So as we can see, it's basically a lot of stuff that we had to move in 1 year to the Eclipse Foundation. So I'll let you imagine all the CI systems that we had to put in place as well to run all the tests, to run all the compilation system, etc. It's really a lot of code in there. Well, I don't have that anymore. How many people do we have? Well, a lot of people are involved. At the beginning, we had a lot of Oracle people, obviously, transitioning all the code from Oracle to Eclipse. Now we've got a lot of committers from a lot of companies like Tomitribe, and even a lot of individuals which joined the game. Now, what has not been donated? Obviously, the Java EE brand is still Oracle. It will remain Oracle, so we had to change naming from Java EE, and we decided after a while to go to Jakarta EE. Jakarta is an island. I don't know if you are aware of that. It used to be under the Apache community, the IP of the Apache community. I don't know if some of you used Jakarta projects in the past, but it used to be on the Apache side of things, which is interesting because basically Eclipse had to get together with Apache and ask Apache to release the Jakarta name so that we could use it for Java EE. So it really shows as well that the community is willing to get Java EE and really join forces to make that to move faster now and grow, which is very interesting. And obviously the JavaX namespace, I believe all of you mainly probably heard about that issue. So I believe it was at the beginning of May, Oracle decided to step back and not allow any JavaX namespace usage. It's actually not true. They decided to restrict the usage, such as you can use still JavaX namespace if you don't change anything in the API. Not changing anything is not adding any value to an enum, not overriding method signatures, not adding any new methods, etc. So basically, they were like, well, you can use JavaX namespace, we'll give you all the sources, but you cannot change them, which becomes a bit useless in essence. So after a lot of discussions, and believe me, people were very sad and disappointed at the beginning to hear that news. After a while, we started to see some benefits that I'll try to share with you. We are still thinking about how we're going to be moving everything, because obviously it's kind of a second big bunk in the Java EE world. The new, without surprise, the new package name is going to be Jakarta. Nothing really exciting in there. And the goal in the Eclipse Foundation is to keep applications to be binary compatible. At some point there will be new runtimes which are going to be moving to Jakarta, and we want that to still be able to host old applications. So there are a lot of challenges that we're going to be facing in the next few months. The discussion has been going on for months. It's supposed to be closed on Sunday, June 9th, where we're going to take a decision, which is basically this Sunday. So if you are still willing to participate and read the thread, you can go into the Eclipse Foundation, get the thread and read it. It's very interesting. Basically, there are two options which are currently under discussion. The first one is, again, Big Bang. Let's move to Jakarta EE 9, which is the same scope of Java EE 8, but where we're going to move all the packages from JavaX to Jakarta. There are some good benefits to that. You know, we only do that once. We don't have to carry on JavaX with Jakarta packages all together and start moving things around. There are also drawbacks because, well, there is 1 million line of code to change. All the services, loader, all that stuff to be changing. And then, obviously, companies will have, and industry will have to change all their applications too and do maintenance on it. So it's the first option. The second one is basically let's keep JavaX whenever we don't change anything. So if we have specifications that we don't want to change or we don't have anything to be adding in there, we can keep JavaX namespace and we only switch all the specifications where we're going to be updating like JAX-RS, JMS and new specifications. We're going to move those ones to Jakarta, which obviously makes things a bit easier from the Eclipse perspective because we don't have to move everything again, release Java EE 9 and then start adding new features in Java EE 10. So we can start basically adding new stuff into Java EE 9, but that may lead to JavaX living forever into Jakarta, which we definitely don't want. There are definitely good benefits to that. It's basically a good way for us to bring up some consistency in the packages. You know, JavaX has been evolving quite a lot over the last years, and therefore switching to Jakarta may be a good opportunity to also bring a bit of consistency in there. And obviously, it's also probably a good opportunity to see how much Jakarta and Java EE was used before. I hear a lot of people, well, I don't really, I'm not a Java EE user, so I don't really care about JavaX namespace. But actually, if you look into what is in JavaX namespace, there is definitely a lot of stuff in there. And whereas you are a Spring Boot user, if you are a Java EE user, or even if you write standalone applications, you probably are using things like XML, JAX-RS, or you know, servlets or things like that, even if you are a Spring user. So basically, even if you are not a Java EE user, you do care about how we're going to handle Jakarta, the new Jakarta EE namespace. All right, so Jakarta EE. So the move from Oracle to Jakarta is also an opportunity to refocus the platform into the cloud, cloud native applications. Again, in 2016, we had a lot of movement into the cloud, which is now mature, and we realized that Java and Jakarta EE was not adding anything for the cloud. So definitely with Jakarta EE, we want to focus some forces on the cloud and get the platform ready. This is a bit of the history for the cloud. So if you put that in parallel with this scheme, with this slide, basically the cloud started in 2006, where the Java EE platform was mature. We've got like big players like Netflix, which well, it's funny, they had like a big clash in 2010 and then they decided to go with Amazon and they are still with Amazon today. So we had people and companies like Netflix investing a lot into cloud systems. They implemented a lot of libraries that they put together into the open source community as well. So we had a lot of you know, things happening over the last few years in the cloud. And again, we realized that Java EE platform was not, you know, adding anything for that. If we put the two side by side, you know, we may see some differences between the on-prem and the cloud deployments. So for instance, we've got like smaller deployments because we don't want to deploy big monolith to cloud systems because it takes longer to start. It doesn't scale up or shrink down very easily. We end up by having a lot of new languages. We've got the new Growl VM as well that is showing up as well. And well, there are a lot of differences and things like as simple as tracing, for instance. How do I trace my calls between microservices so that if there is something happening, I can see what happens. All of that is not available in Java EE, so we had to start thinking about that for the cloud. Same for the logs, and same as well for the configuration, which has been like a complaint from the Java EE users for probably 15 years, and we never really got into the configuration area with Java EE. And obviously, well, nature hates emptiness. We had the cloud, we had the platform, and Oracle didn't do anything for the cloud. So again, the community decided to get together and start working on a new platform for microservices and dedicated to the cloud. This platform is named MicroProfile. Any users? A few? Yep. It's so MicroProfile is not Java EE, and it won't become Java EE. It's really different initiative. Started in 2016. Again, at that time, there was a big black hole from Oracle. They didn't do anything on the platform. Tomitribe, Pyara, and some other vendors decided to go around the table and start writing some specifications. MicroProfile is now 3 years old. We've got so far more than 20 releases. So the release cycle is definitely faster than Oracle and Java EE. That was the goal. The goal was really to get something smaller and be more time to market. So we are heavily listening users and complaints and feedback. And every time we can do something for the users, we basically had a new specification or implement something. And we do a release right after so that you don't have to wait forever to see your new features going to life. We started very small. Again, that was on purpose. The bad thing with standards and specifications is that as soon as you add something, it's very difficult to remove it after. So we decided to start small and then have a lot of small iterations and add stuff. So basically, the first version of MicroProfile only had CDI, context and dependency injection, JAX-RS, and JSON-P for JSON processing. So really not so much to create applications, but it was in September 2016, and then today we are 3 years later, and again we've got 20 releases. We've got everything to do configuration. We've got fault tolerance, which is basically the standard inspired from Netflix Estrix, which is a library. We've got JWT propagation, which is to implement security, stateless security on your applications. If you want to learn more about this one, I've been giving a lot of presentations around JWT and stateless architectures for microservices, so we may have some time to discuss if you are interested. There is things to monitor your application, like health check, metrics, open tracing that I just presented before with Zipkin and stuff like that. And Open API for documentation, REST client for strongly typed objects. We are currently also working on the reactive side of things, and we are trying to implement some of those libraries into the reactive mode as well. Here is the full list of the specifications. We've got so far 21 components again. We've got the orange ones, which are pretty stable. At the bottom, you've got the backbone with CDI, still JSON processing, JAX-RS, and JSON-B. And as you can see, there is a lot of stuff on top of that. So again, why MicroProfile? Well, because Java EE was not innovating anymore. There was a very bad perception about Java EE because it was not evolving anymore. And we needed something more focused on microservices and something which was working for the cloud, something, again, more time to market. If we look at the Java EE platform, we can see that basically it's been growing quite a lot. And if we want to develop microservices which are meant to be small and way smaller than monolith, if we start implementing microservices with 40 specifications, well, it's not light anymore. So we decided to have something really smaller. Interesting thing is that it took 4 years to release Java EE 8 with only 2 specifications. So that shows how fast Java EE was moving at that time. Why macro profile? So I've got already some of the arguments discussed. One important point is that macro profile is fully open sourced. It's all community driven. Everything is discussed and decided on mailing lists. You can join as an individual. It's very easy to get involved. I've got some friends in companies complaining for quite a while, and now they are involved into the macro profile landscape. So definitely, if you want to be involved and contribute to the micro profile, you can do so. Micro profile is kind of meant to be the innovation part of Java EE and more focused on microservices. It doesn't mean that we won't be using Java EE specifications or Jakarta EE specifications if they are accurate or useful. And the same, we do not close the doors, and we might see some specifications from micro profile going into Jakarta EE world. Again, both are hosted into the Eclipse Foundation, so it makes discussions and IP and donations really easier. One important thing, even if we are both on the Eclipse Foundation, microprofile will stay microprofile, Jakarta EE will stay Jakarta EE. There won't be any absorption or anything like that, so don't be afraid. They both focus and target different things, so there won't be any merge between the two anytime soon. Who is involved? Again, it started with few players like Tomitribe, Pyara, IBM, and Red Hat. After that, we've got Microsoft joining, Hazelcast. Even Oracle joined the microprofile initiative and started contributing as well. The interesting thing is that we have also few communities like the South Java from Brazil and the London Java user group as well. And we've got few as well open source communities like Cumulity and Hammock, which are involved, and a lot of individuals and people. What runtimes do we have? On this line, we've got basically all the Java Jakarta EE support, and on this slide, we've got the microprofile support. So we can see that some implementations like Open Liberty are very good players. I'm not an IBM guy, so I'm very happy to say that. Open Liberty is basically implementing pretty much all Jakarta EE 8, and it's also implementing everything from microprofile, so it's really a good player. We've got some very good players as well, like Pyara and Tommy, which are also good implementations. On the other side, we have like implementations like Microwave, which is an Apache implementation as well, which is only focusing microprofile, so there is nothing really related to Jakarta. They only focus microprofile in there. So up to you to pick up basically the implementation you want and you need. There is one interesting one in the middle, Quarkus. Have you heard about Quarkus? Yeah. So Quarkus is from Red Hat, and it's a new runtime which has been created like probably last year, but it's been announced like a few months ago or a few weeks ago. There is like very good presentations on Quarkus. It has like good things like auto reloading. You can add your methods, it's going to reload everything. It's really fast, and you can basically package your application with GraalVM so that it's basically native code running and it starts way faster. So Quarkus is really an interesting one. I'm really looking forward to see how big players like Open Liberty, Pyara, and some other guys are going to take that into account. I've seen already some discussions in the Apache community to basically get from Quarkus, learn from Quarkus, and get some good stuff from there to basically implement new features and new runtime for what we used to have before. So it's really something you have to keep in mind. And if you are interested on the Apache, on the Java EE world, definitely read some stuff from from Quarkus. All right, how to contribute, and I'm right on time. How to contribute? So again, everything is on the Eclipse Foundation. Everything is community driven. Here are some links. So in this one especially, you can read the thread for the Jakarta EE namespace, so where the two options are going to be discussed. So you can get into, read the thread and learn what are the complaints and the feedback on that. Again, if you want to join the community, there is a big calendar that you can download and get on your agenda, so you can join the meetings. Especially there is the community meeting where usually we are like 40 or 50 people on the meeting all over the world, and we kind of discuss where we want Jakarta EE to be going. So very, very interesting. And well, if you have some time and you are passionate, also feel free to be spreading the word. We definitely want now Jakarta EE to be moving and to be representing the community and not the way around. Again, I've been hearing a lot of complaints over the last 20 years, and now it's time to get involved and make the platform to be yours. And that's it, really. Thank you for coming. Obrigado.